All right, you guys, so we've gone through how to do smile lines, so hopefully you guys had a chance to watch that video and get a little bit more comfortable with your smile lines. But now what happens when your clients come back? That's the real challenge, right? So when your clients come back for a regular 2-week fill, you're just gonna do a basic fill. But when they come back another 2 weeks later after that, your smile lines have grown out. What do? That's what I'm gonna show you today, okay? So I've got 2 nails that I'm gonna show you. The first one is what happens if your client is just filling in that white. She wants to keep her pink and whites. The second nail is what happens if your client maybe had a glitter or a design on that free edge. She wants to change it out to go back to pink and white or to go to a different design. I'm gonna show you that one today. So on our first nail, we're gonna start with our prep. So let's go ahead and just prep both of the nails. You're gonna prep these just like you would for every full set, every fill. You're gonna push back the cuticles and remove shine. Now, on our first nail, we're gonna do a fill before cut. So we're gonna fill in and then we're gonna cut our smile line and we're gonna redo our smile line. So when we're prepping this, I'm gonna go to my medium arbor band. We're gonna go at about 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs. Okay. On this one, I'm gonna prep up around that cuticle area and then just through kind of that body. I don't need to prep all the way down onto my free edge because I'm not gonna be working on that. I'm not gonna be applying acrylic. I'm not gonna be applying product to that. Just through that body, just enough to remove shine and kind of break through that top coat. Now, if you have a little bit of that top coat left on the nail, it's fine. Your acrylic is gonna adhere to it just fine. All right, so again, just go through, removing shine, break through that top coat, right down. I usually go to where my smile line is starting already. Okay? So this way we can apply our product through our cuticle area to our smile line, and then we'll cut in a new smile. Go ahead and dust that off. Make sure you're getting all the dust out of the grooves, and then come in with a little bit of our swipe to cleanse that nail. Make sure that you're dusting in the direction of nail growth so you're not pushing the dust down into the sides. So always in the direction of the nail growth. All right, let's get ourselves a nice clean towel to wipe our brush on. Always make sure that you're wiping your brush on a clean spot on a towel so that you're not putting dust back into the nail. I'm gonna grab my liquid and I'm gonna start with my Cover Pink. Cover Pink is what we had on the nail originally, so I always try to fill with the same color that I had originally. Otherwise, you're gonna get lines of demarcation. You're gonna be able to see where the old product was in the new product. But if we're using the same color, you're not gonna see any variation in color. Okay, so again, what we're trying to do, so after 4 weeks, our nail has grown out, our arch is pushed a little bit farther forward. So what we're really doing in this process is rebalancing. We're not just filling in that cuticle area, we're rebalancing. We're gonna build up where our arch should be now, and we're gonna bring that arch back to our actual stress area. After we prep the nail, we wanna make sure we use our 2 coats of protein bond. And because I'm only working in that cuticle area, I actually tap out quite a bit of that protein bond. I don't want that product to flood into my cuticle area. So I'm just gonna brush that right through that natural nail that's showing. It's okay if it gets onto the rest of the acrylic, that's totally fine. You just wanna make sure that it's not flooding back into the cuticle area. So I'm gonna go through all 10 nails that I'm working on and then come back and do a second coat, again, just in that cuticle area. Okay, we're gonna come in and pick up our pearl. So it's not gonna be just a fill size. When we're doing our rebalance, we're gonna pick up a good amount of product. So before I set that down, I'm gonna wait about 4 to 5 seconds just to give that product a little bit of a chance to kind of set up a little bit and not quite put it into clay consistency, but just give it a little chance to set up. So I drop it down onto the nail, just to kind of press out my cuticle area. I'm gonna angle that finger straight down so it's pointing straight down at my table. Let that product flow a little bit. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep the bulk right through the stress area, but I'm also gonna kind of build up a little bit onto the sides. So where the corners of my new smile line are gonna go, that's where I want a little bit more bulk. Now you can go ahead and blend out the edge of it. You don't have to, because we're not trying to create a new smile line with our product. We're going to come in and create our smile line with our electric file. So again, I'm just going to pull a little bit more of that forward right into where I'm going to cut my new smile line. All right, now your clients are probably going to look at this nail and be like, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? And you're going to say, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's not going to look pretty now, but it's going to look beautiful at the end. Okay, so if you look from the end, you can see again, I've built out my product all the way from side to side, and I'm putting a little bit of thickness right into those sides. I don't necessarily need a ton of thickness through the center, but I want to make sure those sides are about the same thickness all the way across, from here to here to here, so that when I do cut in my smile line, I'm going to be cutting into that product and not all the way down to that natural nail. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just let this set up, and then I'm going to go in and cut a new smile line. So when you're working with your electric file, you're cutting in your smile lines, I recommend using the X-Cut carbide. So this is a bit, we actually have it in the right-handed and also left-handed. So if you're a lefty, we've got one for you. Okay? When you get a brand new X-Cut bit, take it out of the packaging, and you want to season this bit. So just like you would season and take off the sharp edges of your hand file, you're going to season your new X-Cut. And to do that, I'm just going to pop that in. And you only need to do this once. You don't need to do it every time you use it. If you do season it every time you use it, you're going to take down the grit of it and it's not going to work as well. But by seasoning your X-Cut, it's going to keep it from jumping on the nail, and it's also going to be much safer so you can feel comfortable using it a little closer to the cuticle area. So we're going to season the top edge. Just tap 1, 2, 3. That's all you need to do. Okay, don't run it on there over and over and over and over. Just 1, 2, 3. Same thing on the back edge, just to be safe. Again, 1, 2, 3. So now it's kind of softened up that edge a little bit, and you don't have to worry about it gripping too much. It's still going to have that sharp edge to take down your product, but not too sharp where it's going to cut the skin. So I'm just checking to see if my product is set. It's still kind of in a soft stage. I can't hear. Normally you would hear that sharp click when it's set. It's still in kind of that thud stage, so we're going to let that set a little bit longer. When you're working on a full set, I recommend doing all of your prep on all 10 nails. Go through and apply your pink on all 10 nails. That way, by the time you're done with that 10th nail, your first nail should already be set and you're ready to go into your cutting of your smile line. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to come in and we're going to cut in a new smile line, so that we're going to put that smile line back where it naturally should fall, so that she's going to get another 4 weeks out of these nails, and I don't have to take off the whole set. I don't have to replace everything. I'm just going to push that smile line back. So when you're learning how to do smile lines, there's a couple of techniques that you can use to kind of help you get a visual. Either come in with a marker, and it's okay to do this on your clients when you're starting. They're going to understand. They're going to want their nails perfect, so they're going to be okay if you put a couple of little dots on the nail. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 dots on the side so that I can see exactly where those top corners are going to be. And then I'm going to put another dot right down in the center so that I'm basically going to connect those dots. So this is about where my smile line is going to be. Again, don't worry if it's not perfect. You can always clean it up after we file. Another trick you can try, this is something that I kind of like to do, especially for beginners, because it gives you a little bit more of a guide. So I like to take the center of my, just the center of my form, and you can use either the more rounded side if you're looking for kind of a softer smile line, or if you're looking for more of an extreme smile line, you can use the bottom side. So depending on what shape you want your smile line, you can just press that down onto the nail, secure that down, and you can use that as your guide. Okay. Another thing, if you want to, if you don't want to leave the form on there, you can go ahead and just color that space in, and that's going to be your guide. So if you wanted to take that off, you see exactly where you're going to file. Okay. So just some tricks while you're learning until you really get comfortable cutting in your smile lines. it might help you to just kind of get a more feel for where you're cutting on the nail. Okay, when you're cutting your smile lines, using your overhand grip position is going to be huge. Okay, this is what's going to really help you cut those smile lines in. Because if you're working and you're holding from underhand, we're going to be cutting all the way through here. If you get to this side, you can't get all the way into that corner with this hand sitting here. So that's why we turn into that overhand position. We're going to adjust the hand so this way we can come through, we can move the client's hand all the way through, and I can get all the way down into that corner and I can get that really sharp, crisp edge. I'm going to turn my electric file onto about 14 to 16,000 RPMs. I'm going to turn that finger. I'm going to balance on the side of the client's finger here with my fulcrum finger. When you're electric filing, that fulcrum finger is a necessity. You do not want to file without using a finger to balance. This is going to help control the pressure that you're putting on the nail. It's also going to help control where you're moving your hand. It's going to give you just a little bit more balance and security when you're filing. So I turn the finger and it's kind of in line with my hand. So again, if you're a lefty, you're going to work from the opposite direction. You're going to turn the hand from this direction, okay? So the client's finger is just kind of going to be in line with your arm. Okay. So that's where our starting position is. Okay, so I'm going to file from my corner into the middle. That's the only section that I'm going to worry about at first. I'm not trying to cut all of this in one. I feel like my form is kind of coming off, so I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to use that line as my guide here. So I'm going to start in the corner. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Now you see my handpiece is kind of working kind of like a clock. I don't know if people actually have real clocks these days instead of the digital, but you're just turning that as kind of the hands on the clock. You're staying with the top of your bit is kind of the center of that clock, and you're just pivoting that handpiece all the way around the outside. So again, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can see that I've started cutting in there. I haven't cut all the way through it, and that's okay. We'll come back through. But you do the 1, 2, 3. Turn the hand, turn that finger, reposition. Then we're going to come across that center section. Do 1, 2, 3. Again, turn, and you're going to kind of lift up on that finger. Now this is where, on the side here, we started with our palm facing up. As we work through, that palm starts to turn down. When we get to the opposite side, you're going to be completely palm down. So you've gone from palm up to palm down. Okay? So on this side, we're coming all the way down here and cutting down into that corner. Now, what happens is you want to make sure that the base of your handpiece is about parallel to the finger here, and then when you come through here, again, you're parallel or slightly lower than the finger. So you want to make sure that you're never up at this angle. We're not using the corner of the bit, we're using the whole top part of the bit to cut. If you start angling up, what's going to happen is it's going to start to catch, and then it's going to jump. And it's going to scare you, it's going to scare your client. So you want to make sure to keep that angle down or just about parallel. Okay? Again, when you come, do you hear that kind of catch? Okay, when you come down to the side, again, you're going to drop the base of the handpiece down so that you can come all the way down into that corner. Okay? Once you kind of have your guideline, then you just come back through, cut all the way through, and we're going to take that product down so that we have a really nice ledge. And again, if you don't do your smile line perfect, it's okay. I'm going to show you a trick to clean it up. All right, so I've got that about where I want my smile line. Then I'm going to come through and I'm going to just thin out my free edge a little bit more. You can work towards yourself. You can kind of come in at like a back and forth motion, whatever's comfortable for you. Just make sure that you're not just leaving that bit on that nail, okay? If you're staying on the nail like that and kind of grinding away, that's going to build up heat really, really fast, and you potentially could burn your client. So make sure that you're moving, lift up, moving, lift up, moving, lift up, and you're always going in a different space. All right, so we're again just thinning that out a little bit. And then I'm going to show you here from the side. You're going to have a really good drop down. You're going to have a nice ledge here so that we're going to be able to fill that white back up to that new smile line. Especially on the corners, make sure that it's not just kind of flowing down, that you've actually cut a ledge, okay? A lot of times what people do is when they're filing, they kind of just trail off the side. So rather than actually getting down into that corner, they just kind of trail off, and they end up leaving a little bit more product in here. So it's not so much a ledge, it's just kind of a flow. So you want to make sure that you're coming all the way down into that corner to cut that. Now, if you don't have your smile line perfect, this is the same trick that we used when we were doing our initial full set. Grab a brand new file. Do not take the sharp edges of it off at this point. You want that sharp edge. You can come in, use that file to crisp up your smile line and make it perfect. Make it nice and even so that it's all the way even from one corner to the other. Now, do you see how my file kind of kept slipping? I want to make sure that when I'm finishing this nail here, I go through all the way through without it slipping off. I stay connected all the way from side to side, because every time you disconnect your file, it leaves a little ridge in that nail. So when you put your white back on, if you don't smooth out that ridge, you're going to be able to see all of those little choppy file marks. So go through, make sure everything stays connected, and then we'll come back around one more time. Make sure everything is nice and even. So this is one of my favorite tricks when doing smile lines, because you're not always going to be perfect with your electric file, especially when you're starting out. So using that hand file to really perfect your smile line is going to make a huge difference for you. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look and see where do I have my highest points of my little corners. Right there and right there. So I can see that my smile line is now going to be nice and straight. We'll go ahead and fill this. I'm just going to use a little bit of swipe. So if you do use a marker or something to kind of guide yourself, just wipe that off before you do your fill, because you don't want your marker getting into the nail. So again, you can see we've got that nice drop down. Our free edge is nice and thin. We've thinned out that pink right here. The pink is what you really want to make sure that you're thinning out. If you leave your white on the end a little thicker, that's okay. We're going to be filling in with white. But if you leave that pink too thick, you're going to start to see shadows. Okay, so just make sure that you've got a clean area of the pink. Now, if you did accidentally go all the way to that natural nail, make sure to come back in with a little bit of the protein bond, just right through anywhere that there was natural nail showing. Okay, so we're gonna fill in our free edge with our speed white. So I'm gonna pick up a pearl. Now, when we were doing our initial full set, we drained out the extra liquid. This time, I'm gonna give it just a quick drain. I don't wanna remove all of that liquid. I'm gonna scrape this off of my brush, and by having that little bit of extra liquid, that's going to help me just kind of touch that product and lightly, almost floating it like a gel, back up into that corner. If you dry your product out too much at this point, it's not going to flow into that corner, and you're going to have to do a little bit more work to get it back in there. You can do it, but it's just going to be a little bit more work for you. Once I got it into those corners, I'm just going to blend it out and blend it into that free edge. Just kind of blending through. Now, if you have a little bit in the corner that maybe you missed, I see I could use just a little bit more right up in there. Just pick up just a tiny little bit. Again, give it a quick dab to drain out a little bit of that extra, and just touch it right up into that side. Remember that any product that goes up over that pink is just going to file off, so don't worry, it's going to look just fine. We'll go ahead and let this one set, but let me kind of walk you through this one a little bit. This nail, we're going to change this one out so that we're going back to a pink and white rather than our glitter. So for this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in with, I like to use a straight edge toenail clipper. We're going to clip this edge off, we're going to fill it, cut in our line, and then reposition our white smile line. Okay? Now, when you're clipping off the edge, I always recommend take a look underneath, make sure that you know exactly where your client's hyponychium is. The worst thing you could do at this point is to cut into that hyponychium. So make sure that they don't have an overgrown hyponychium so that you're not going to cut into it. Okay, now my client, she doesn't have much of a hyponychium, so I'm just going to come in, I'm going to clip right off at this free edge. And usually one clip will do. Sometimes you may need to come across. If your toenail clippers aren't super sharp, you may need to come across from the other side again. Okay. So I'm going to take my carbide bit. You can use either the safety bit or the X-cut, whichever you prefer. And we are going to take down the rest of that glitter. Okay, you can come around the edge. So depending on where their natural nail is, you can come around that edge and clean up that glitter. Otherwise, you're just going to go over the top and taper that down a little bit and get rid of all of that color. Now, if you're not feeling super comfortable using the X-cut, you can just go through with your hand file and take down the rest of that. I'm just going to go through, remove a little bit of that top coat. Okay, and then we'll just continue to prep. Okay, I'm just going to come through with my hand file just to kind of take off those last little bits of my color. And there's a little bit left on there, but I think that's going to be right over her natural nail, so I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. In cutting our new smile line, that's all going to come off. Okay, we're going to go through and prep our nail. So just like you would normally prep, I'm working at about 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs. I'm going to come up around my cuticle area, remove that shine, and then lightly remove through the rest of that surface. Alright. I'm going to dust the nail off. Use a little bit of our swipe, cleanse that nail. Come back with our protein bond, and we're just going to protein bond just that natural nail. Again, if you get product onto the acrylic, it's totally fine, not a big deal, but we only need the protein bond on the natural nail. Okay, we'll go through all 10 nails, come back, do a second coat on our natural nail. And just like we did on that first nail, we're going to build up that arch a little bit more. So I'm waiting about 4 to 5 seconds before I put my product down. Press that product into the cuticle area, let it flow down the nail. And again, you don't have to worry if it's going to be a perfect smile line because we're going to cut that in again with our electric file. We're just building up that arch a little bit more, making sure that our thickness is into that nail. You can kind of feather that out at the free edge if you feel like you've got too much product on there. Go ahead and take it off if you want to. Otherwise, just kind of feather it out and you'll just file it off with your e-file. Okay, we'll let this set up. I'll cut in the smile line and then I'll show you how to put that white back on. Okay, so our pink has set. Again, if you're gonna do a full set of these, do all of your pinks all the way through all 10 nails and then come back and your product will be ready to cut in. So again, I'm going to switch over to my X-cut. We'll go in at about 14,000 to 16,000 RPMs. Now again, if you want to put your marker on there, draw your lines on there, however you need to, go right ahead. I'm just going to come in. We're going to cut in that new line. So again, I'm doing just 1, 2, 3, and then readjust and turn. 1, 2, 3. So on this one, my product is not quite set. It's just a little on the soft side. So I'm really backing off on my pressure a little bit. So I don't want to go too much too fast when it's still a little on the softer side. But again, you guys, when you're working on a full set, most of the time, by the time you get to that first nail after the 10th nail, it's going to be set up, no problem. So again, watch as I come around that edge. I'm bringing my palm down and coming right around. Now, if I left my palm up, or if I had the base of my handpiece up a little bit, it's going to catch right in here and it's going to jump. So make sure that you're bringing that palm all the way down. Another little trick is you should be able to see where the top of your bit is. If I angle it up too much and I can't see that top part of my bit, it's going to catch on that smile line. Okay, so again, we're just coming through, cutting in that smile line, thin out that free edge a little bit more. And then I'm going to make sure that I get all of that last little bit of the glitter from my last set on there. I'm going to make sure to get that taken off. Alright, so again, you guys can see how it's getting that really nice ledge and kind of that drop down. But we still have our arch being built up through here. Okay. And let's take our hand file, clean up that edge just a little bit more. There's just those last little bits of glitter. Just don't seem to want to come off. But honestly, when we're putting that white over it, it's going to cover it up. So if you do have just a couple of stray little bits of that glitter, it's okay. The white's going to cover it up. Again, I'm using my brand new file. I have not taken my sharp edges off of this one. And I'm just coming through, cleaning up that smile line. Alright, so once I have finished with my smile line, and I'm not going to worry about using this new file for my smile line anymore, go back through and then take those sharp edges off. Because at the end of your service, you can use this file for your finishing. And you want to make sure that you don't accidentally use it without taking those sharp edges off. All right, so our nail is ready to resculpt. I'm going to just dust that off. Again, we're going to use our swipe. And again, you guys, you see those last couple of little bits of that glitter. I'm not even going to worry about that. It's going to get covered up with the white. We'll get our form on, and then at that point, we're basically going to be putting our white on just like we did for an original full set, okay? And we're going to drain that product out and use it in more clay form. All right. Get our form up underneath there. Again, if you have any of that natural nail showing, use just a little bit of the protein bond right at that edge. And we'll come back with our speed white, and then I'm going to drain that out so that it's going to again go back to clay form rather than run on my form. Put that right up to my smile line, press my brush in the center of it and work that product out to the side. Press straight in and then walk the bulk of it up into those corners. Come back from the other side all the way across, press straight in and walk that bulk up into the corner. All right. Again, if we need to, kind of start to pull that product into your shape. If you're doing a coffin, square, almond, whatever shape you're working, just start to pull that into shape. All right, again, I've got just a little hair of a space there. Again, in my filing, it's probably going to take that out, but if you have something that you're concerned about, just take a tiny little wet pearl, drop that right in there, and that'll fill it in. Okay, check your corners, make sure your corners are okay, make sure that those are all filled in. And I'm gonna go ahead and file these up and I'll show you the final results.
Subscribe channel now. Subscribe channel now. Subscribe